Okay guys, welcome to Links London. Welcome to our Southeast London, South London global headquarters. Today we're going to be restoring a pair of vintage or retro Links of London cufflinks. Now, one of the things we're going to be doing here at Links London is acquiring, repairing and restoring original and vintage Links of London pieces. And for those of you that are really new here, Links of London was a British jewellery brand founded in 1990, sold to foreign investors in 2006, who by 2019 had saddled it with £100 million, over £100 million worth of debt, and bankrupted it. They couldn't find buyers, so it went to liquidation. However, they made some cool stuff and it was really well made. And most of the problems with the business and the brand were financial and behind the scenes. So we thought it'd be cool to get some of the pieces and repair, restore them and get them back out there. The brand was originally founded as a cufflink brand, hence the name Links of London. So although I've repaired and restored quite a lot at this point to get the store up and running, thought it would be a good place to start in terms of sharing the process. It's with a pair of cufflinks, a pair of, I guess these would be retro rather than vintage Links of London cufflinks, because these were probably closer to, they were in production, Links of London were in production from 1990 to 2019. So at the time of me filming this, the pieces would be between 5 and 35 years old. Maths, is that right? Yeah, let's go with between 5 and 35 years old. And these would be probably somewhere between, probably around about 10 years old at this point. Although I have already restored some pieces that go back to the early 1990s. Now, some of the pieces, what I want to do with these first of all is, at the end of this, if all goes well, I'm going to use our product photography to photograph these and get them for sale in the store. So what I'll do with them now is I'll use the same style of photography. We've got a light box so that you get an accurate before and after picture. So I'm not using lighting techniques to make them look better or worse before and better afterwards. I'll use the same photography, and I'll show you what these look like now, using the same photography. They're not tricks, it's just using the same photography style that we're going to use at the end. I'll use that now. Give you an accurate, the key thing with the product photography is that people get what they see on screen, that it's accurate, not better or worse. Especially when it comes to vintage, you want an accurate representation. But yeah, some of the pieces, because they range from 5 to 35 years of age, and some were worn, some were obviously well loved, and some were just well stored. So the pieces range in condition from new old stock, perfect. In fact, I've got pieces still in their stock bags, and I've got bulk packaging from the liquidators that's in near new condition. So yeah, we've got pieces that range from as new to only good for scrap. Basically, things have been, I don't even know what's happened to some things. But actually, as a jeweler, the ones that are near ready for the scrap pile are probably the most, and are slightly more challenging to bring back to life, are probably the more compelling things to work on. However, in an era of 10 and 20 times magnification and product photography on phones, although they would look perfectly acceptable in a shop window, some of the things that were and acceptable as a vintage piece, a restored and repaired vintage piece, if you take something that's completely mangled and unmangle it, it can look a bit of a dog's dinner on 20x magnification. But these are closer to new old stock than a dog's dinner. So a pair of oval sterling silver cufflinks, oval front, oval back, swivel backs with a logo on the back, and yeah, they look like they've spent most of their life being stored rather than worn. Now they are hallmarked. I did a quick inspection earlier. Each one has a Edinburgh hallmark, a Links of London hallmark, but they're not dated. But from my experience of working on Links of London pieces over recent months, the ones without a date letter were, I believe, towards the end of production, closer to the end of production, so 2019. It's probably somewhere between around 2015 to 2019. Also, that style of box is not an early box. That's it could be any time from sort of 2010, 2012, and they've put a cufflink fitting, although that could be used for other things. But yeah, it's a jewelry box with a cufflink pad in it. Now they're in good condition. There is some light scratches on the front, on the ovals, some light marks and scratches, although how perfect they were when they were new, only the original owner could tell you. Now they're really tarnished on the oval front and on the swivel back, and in the middles around the hallmark area. And I would guess as to why that is what a lot of manufacturers did and still do is there will be some on silver, and white gold is another example, but especially on silver. Now traditionally they didn't need to do any kind of surface finishing or plate thing, so when I started working in the jewellery trade, all the people that worked in shops, silver was the bane of their lives, because every morning when they went into work, they spent the whole morning, probably the whole day, polishing the silver with gloves on, putting it back in the windows. But what happened when brands started emerging, they weren't happy with that setup. Plus, back in the day, a lot of jewellers had a workshop with polishing equipment in. So what the brand started doing, which wasn't in any way to mislead the customer, it was just there was more work and expense at the manufacturing end rather than having the shop staff cleaning and polishing silver all day. They started originally, I think it was rhodium. They were putting rhodium on silver, which it does look brighter and whiter than silver slightly, and obviously it wears off, but it was basically to stop the tarnish. There was other ways of doing it. There's a form of anodic plating, but it no one knows how long that lasts. It lasts a certain amount of time, and nobody really knows how long the rhodium's going to last. It depends on where. But then rhodium started to get really expensive. Like when I first started, it was about 50 or 60. It was sold in litres for the plating machines. Well, there's either 1 or 2 grams, yeah, and it's in a litre of fluid. And I think when I started, it was sort of 60 to 80 pounds, and there were periods where it was over 1,000. So I think at the moment it's about 400. At the time we filmed this, it's about 400 a litre. So then other sort of plating solutions started coming in, like palladium and platinum, and even now there are less expensive variations. So what would happen, and what I think the reason, anyway, the key point of this is the reason I think this is tarnished differently in different places is this has in some way had a surface treatment. I don't think it's been rhodium, but it will be it was either some sort of anodic plating or a rhodium substitute, palladium or platinum. And what's happening is it's wearing off, either through actual wear or where the previous owners they're the surfaces they would rub to buff them up. So they've buffed off the surface finish, which was put in place to stop the silver tarnishing. So in areas like the back, it hasn't tarnished because the surface finish is still in place and still protecting the silver from. It's a natural harmless. It's harmless to the silver and it's harmless to humans. It's just silver oxide. But in other places, it's tarnished unevenly, shall we say. It almost looks like black rhodium on the front of the ovals and on the backs. So we need to get the tarnish off, but also there's light scratches to the front, which we can get these mirror finished. These, for a jeweler, these are actually in really good, what a jeweler would, from a retail perspective, put these in a shop window, nobody's going to be particularly interested in, well, you never know, actually. They might like the antiqued finish. It is a decorative finish, I guess. But yeah, from a jeweler's perspective, this is hopefully a simple clean and polish, and not they won't fall apart and become a full restoration job. So we need to get that tarnish off. Now what I want to do with these, I could put them in the ultrasonic to start with, but it seems a bit of they're not actually dirty at all. What I think I'm going to do, I'm going to put these in the barrel polisher. Now a lot of the processes we use as jewelers are tried and tested, like soldering and setting. There's no trial and error. With polishing, however, although the methods have been the processes I'm going to use are centuries old pretty much, albeit they've been mechanized, but the barreler is just burnishing metal against metal, and polishing is just a series of different abrasives. It's just the way we apply them that's we've now got electric motors, but the polishing processes can be, especially initially, a bit of trial and error. So I could put these in the barrel and it might not do anything. I could change the media. One might do too much and one not enough, and polishing as well. You can use different compounds and different brushes and have success. Obviously experience helps with that, but I think what I'm going to do with these first of all is put them in the barrel polisher with some shot. If they were worn, I'd put them in with, I've just got some new ceramic there actually. I've just moving the barrel, I've got some new ceramics because the old, it does wear down and the old ones were in. But I'm not going to use ceramics because these don't need it, these are not. But what I want to put them in the barrel for is to try and get a uniform finish, especially in the backs and some of the detailed areas. The pins in the shot, the steel pins, will get into all these details which are tarnished on the swivel backs and the logos, and even into the hallmark details and in the backs, where once they're assembled like this, it's slightly more challenging to get to with polishing. It's not impossible, but it's just slightly more challenging. And the longer you spend polishing, the more material you're removing and the more detail you're removing. Like these have got a nice stepped back, and if I'm to go at them with a polish machine for any period of time, you could quite easily smooth that off. So the barrel polisher is just steel pins, metal rubbing on metal. It's a burnishing process, very little in the way of removal, but it will give them a nice bright finish, and it will help. It's a mechanical finish. It's nowhere near as good as a hand polished finish, but it will get areas in the back nice and bright, and then we can give special attention once that's done to the more visible areas, the front and backs, and we can then mirror finish by hand the surfaces that need to be mirror finished. So yeah, first up, barreling. Couple of hours. So for the first stage of polishing our cufflinks, we're going to use our barrel polisher. Now this is a 6 litre rotor barrel, which is a pretty big barrel for one pair of cufflinks, but it's what we've got set up at the minute. In here I've got steel shot, mixture of pins, balls and satellite shaped pieces. We'll mix that, we'll cover that with water and a polishing powder. It's not really a polish, it's a brightening agent and a rust inhibitor to protect the steel shot, but it does help the movement of the pieces. Now, many jewelers will leave these overnight. They'll turn them on their way out the door in the evening and turn them off when they come back in the morning. It's that length of process. It's hours, not minutes. We're just going to leave these for a couple of hours because we're going to hand polish them afterwards, and we'll see what we've got. One advantage of using such a large machine is the weight of the media applies additional pressure than a smaller barrel would, so it will take marginally less time to achieve similar results. Okay, our cufflinks have been in the barrel polisher with the mix shot for about 2 hours actually, and they could probably do with about 2 hours more, to be honest. They look, it's definitely an improvement. They look a lot brighter. It's revealed, where it's brightened the surface of them, it's revealed a couple of marks on the surface of one of them, I noticed, which I just want to flatten off the surface a little bit with a emery stick. I know this looks like a file, but it's got emery paper stuck to an old file, just so that I can see where the marks are on, because what we're going to do now is hand polish them. I'll give you a little close-up of these.
what the barreling's done, it's definitely brightened up the backs and the hard to reach areas. It's removed most of the tarnish. However, what I was saying earlier about where a lot of silver has surface treatments of one sort or another, or platings, I think what's happened with this is sometimes with this Links of London stuff, a lot of it looks like it's been black rhodiumed. In fact, I've seen some of it sold as black rhodiumed, and some of it was, because they traded for a period where black rhodium was a popular surface finish. However, I think some of this, it's almost I don't know what plating they used, whether it was rhodium or platinum plating, but obviously where it's now, some of it's close to around 30 years old, you're almost getting silver oxide, so the silver tarnish beneath whatever plating or surface anodic plating, surface pacification they've done to silver oxide. It's almost oxidized. It looks like it's oxidized beneath the plating, and the plating's quite just a few microns thick, so it's almost translucent. So it looks quite cool actually. It does look very similar to black rhodium, albeit like you've done it slightly wrong, not uniform. So yeah, with where this has barreled it, most of it's brightened up, but there's some areas on the top here where the tarnish is still there, because I think it's not subsurface on the silver, it's subsurface on the plating above it. So the only thing we can do to get rid of that quickly, evenly, hand polishing. So let's go to the polishing wheel, polishing motor, and polish these to a mirror finish. So for a final hand polish on these cufflinks, I'm going to use our polishing motor, and we're going to start with a soft calico mop. I think this is a reflex grade. This will allow us to get into all the hard to reach areas of the cufflink backs. If these were held together with chain or had slightly more intricate design details, I'd use a bristle brush to get into all the little nooks and crannies, but I think I'll be able to press this soft calico mop into all the hardest to reach areas of these cufflinks. And then to get a mirror finish on the front, I'm going to use a felt-like polishing mop. I've got a modern alternative which is slightly softer but allows you to apply the same sort of pressure as you could to a felt polishing wheel. The polish I'm using is called Hyphen. It's actually a polish designed for stainless steel, but it works wonderfully on work hardened sterling silver like these cufflinks. Slightly faster cutting than using rouge, gets almost as fine a finish. And then once we've polished them, they're covered in polish, so it's into the ultrasonic cleaner to give them a final clean and remove all the residual polishing compound. Our ultrasonic cleaning machine is actually so powerful, if you leave pieces in here too long, it will mark them. So there's a fine line between cleaning things and leaving it, forgetting about them and having to repolish them because the sonic has marked them. So I'm just checking that all of the dirt and polishing residue is out of the intricate areas of these in the hallmarks before we go to final rinsing and drying. Okay, vintage, certainly retro, Links of London, oval, swivel back, sterling silver, cufflinks, they've come up really well. Now we've machine polished these, then hand finished them on the polishing machine and dried them. What I'm going to do with these are going to go in the Links London store. So what I'll do is I'll take some photos of these now in the light box so you can see what they look like now in the same conditions, the same lighting conditions as the before photos, so no trickery. So, and the photos you're going to see now will be the ones, they'll be the product photos for these, and hopefully by the time you're watching this someone's bought them, but double check.
I've actually got another pair of these, at least one other pair of these. So they may have sold a few. So they may be a revolving item of stock, if you will. So these were actually, if you've seen the before pictures, they looked awful, but they were actually in really good condition. All of the issues with these were surface. They just needed a good clean and polish, really, a professional clean and polish. So I think what the issue with these was, and I've seen this on a few links of London products, almost looks, it's not just sterling silver tarnish, it's not just silver oxide that these are suffering from. And I think this is a symptom of age. Whatever surface treatment these were given, whether it was rhodium plating or palladium or platinum plating or just anodic plating like surface pacification, that is wearing off, and it's not wearing off evenly. And even where it's not wearing off, I think that it's almost like it's becoming, or was always, porous, and just with time the silver is tarnishing beneath the plating, and it's such a thin layer, and it's translucent, so the tarnish is almost subsurface, but the surface is a plating, so it looks almost like fire stain, but more widespread than fire stain would be. But yeah, these have cleaned up really well. The barreling certainly helped, but it didn't. What the barreling didn't do is it didn't remove whatever that plating was. Maybe it was rhodium. It didn't remove the rhodium entirely, so there were areas where, yeah, it looked like fire stain rather than or black rhodium in patches. But the polishing machine has done a marvellous job. So yeah, these can go in store. Get the AI to figure out a fair price. These could now, I think if you put these alongside a brand new pair, they would be indistinguishable, albeit if originally these or others were rhodium plated. The rhodium is, these are now, with whatever plating or surface finish was on these, we've polished that off so evenly, so these are now natural sterling silver, as they should be, I guess, or were originally intended. All the surface finish was applied for is to prevent tarnish in a retail setting. So it wouldn't have. I doubt they even sold it as a benefit, because although it is a benefit for the consumer, trying to sell plated, it doesn't work. It just it's not a good look in the title, so it probably wouldn't have even, it doesn't need to be disclosed legally for some reason, and it probably wasn't, so yeah, you could, it's very common on white gold, especially 18 karat, because it's grey, so it's very common for that to be rhodium plated and not disclosed the first time, and it's a little bit unfair because it does wear off, and the first customers, consumers often hear about rhodium plating is when they've got to pay for it to be redone on their very expensive 18 karat gold engagement rings or wedding bands or what have you. And to be honest, a lot of the retailers don't know either. They couldn't tell you whether it was plated or not. The manufacturers just do it. We're in a sort of unique position because we're manufacturers as well as retailers. But yeah, back to the point was, these look like probably brand new, as good as they did when they were new, and if you put them side by side with a pair of brand new ones, and under bright lights they'd look identical. Maybe after a period of weeks or months, these, because they're natural sterling silver now, they might age slightly different to a rhodium plated pair or platinum plated pair, in that these will tarnish like sterling silver does. However, these now, if a customer required it or wanted it, if they had, for instance, a rhodium plated tie clip or dress studs, and these can now be rhodium plated very easily. They're now, and you really want them like this to be before they're plated, and that is a polished uniform finish, because as I was saying, the plating's rhodium's actually quite thick and opaque, but certainly the gold, we could now gold plate these with 18 karat yellow or 18 karat rose, even 9, 22 karat. We could yellow gold plate these, rose gold plate these in the different carats, and that's to get a good colour. It remains almost translucent, so if there's marks beneath, if they're marked, if they're not mirror finished, the marks are still there. It doesn't fill scratches or anything like that. Rhodium can actually minor marks. It certainly can hide things like fire stain. These could look like a Dalmatian dog in terms of fire stain. You can rhodium plate right over it, and unscrupulous people do. But yeah, I'm happy with those. They're going to go in the shop. They look great, like new. If it wasn't for the fact that they had the hallmarks and the logos of a company that went into liquidation in 2019, we could sell them as new. It's like giveaway that they're at least 5 years, probably closer to 10 years old. But with such little wear, you'd never know. Right, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Toodles.